All right, guys, I guess you would say this is breaking news. I'm sitting down here at the studio, and while I'm here, Dana White announced some fights. For January, Strickland versus Du Plessis. For February, Volkanovski versus Topuria. For March, he announced it's going to be Chito Vera versus Sean O'Malley. Okay. Now, if I was to work in descending order with Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera, appropriate, correct. If I had any surprises, it would be that we're waiting all the way till March. Right match, no question. If I was to go to February and react, Topuria Volkanovski, right match, 1 versus 2. And Volk, who did a favor by filling it on short notice to take on Makhachev, had one request coming out of it, which is please book me soon. Okay, great. That happened. His concerns were heard and recognized, and he's got a match. But if I was to back up one more to Strickland Du Plessis, I would not have guessed that. Now, I don't argue that that's the wrong match. I love to see Du Plessis, who in December of last year was an undercard and spoke up. He had massive problems that he was on an undercard, particularly on a card that had Bo Nickel, who was on a main card. And Du Plessis saying, how many times has he done it? How many times have I done it? My fight is meaningful and difficult. His is a squash match. What are you doing? This was Du Plessis, and he didn't have a very big audience. He had Twitter, and there was like 300 followers at the time. Not a lot of people were hearing this, but he was vocal, and by the time that night came around, he was on the main card. And don't think you have to tell me all the things that went into that. I know them, but that statement is true. He spoke up, and by the time that night came, he was on the main card. That's true. He then goes into, right? I mean, he was supposed to be an undercard that night. He got his way. The squeaky wheel got hurt. He got the grease on that one, but then he parlayed that into a number one contenders match, of which he was a 3-1 dog. None of us thought he was going to beat Whitaker. He ends up giving Robert Whitaker, the unbeatable, he ends up giving Robert Whitaker the second worst ass whipping of his life. He gets recognized. He gets a title fight. I mean, the moment that fight was done, he's face-to-face with Adesanya, and they're setting the table for a future card. I love all those things about Du Plessis, but to tell you that I was surprised by it, I was, for 2 reasons. He was given, Du Plessis, a title fight with Izzy. He turned it down. So when Sean Strickland steps in to do what Du Plessis was unwilling to do, I would have predicted for you that Du Plessis would not be next just on that factor. To give Du Plessis an opportunity to win a championship, which is what this all was about, but to do it through a guy who got the belt off the guy you did not want to face, I would not have predicted for you that that would happen. And moreover, what happened to Chimaev? Where do we go with all that? There could be an answer. Getting those answers is very difficult. Chimaev doesn't give us a lot. And there's a rule in politics, if somebody is saying something about you and it's not true, you must correct it. You must. Or there will be a perception that that is true, and perception becomes reality, right? A lie told enough times becomes a truth. And in spite of that fact and psychological reasoning, Chimaev still doesn't come out and correct it. He does not seem to care. He does not seem to care if what you think about him is true or not. Does not seem to care if what you say about him is true or not. So it's very difficult to get information from Chimaev. Like, there might be a very reasonable answer, which is this January date was preserved and reserved for Chimaev versus Strickland, and Chimaev got hurt. Like, there was a rumor that he had a broken hand. Now, there's been pictures of Chimaev since the match, and none of those pictures contain a cast. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the broken hand rumor isn't true. Just for example, and both fighters, Chimaev and Sean Strickland, knew the deal, which is whoever wins between Usman and Chimaev fights Strickland for the belt next. They knew the deal. And when the fight was done, Chimaev began talking about Strickland, and Strickland began talking about Chimaev. They knew the deal. Coach Nixick even came out with something very helpful towards that fight, which is to say the rumors that you've heard about the training sessions between Sean and Chimaev are false. Chimaev did not throw him around the room and control him and dominate him. That did not happen. Chimaev's never said it happened. Sean never said it happened. Nobody was there and witnessed this, said it happened. Nobody claims that I'm just here to clear up the reports that have come out are inaccurate. Well, that was really helpful. That was really interesting. And all signs were pointing in that direction. And then today we get the announcement that Du Plessis, who had a fight, and his fight with Whitaker, it was told to all of us beforehand, would be the number one contender and would be in a title fight. And you must understand when you're told that there is other ways and other wording. There is a caveat to all of that, which is when I tell the number one contender that they get a fight for the belt, just go out here, win this fight, you get a fight for the belt. What is meant with that colloquialism and that rhetoric in our industry is that you will be offered a chance to fight for the belt. That is specifically what that is meant to mean. Once I make you that offer, if that match doesn't come around, if you turn it down, by example, we are now square. I did my end of the bargain. And there's many people who come out and they're a little newer, a little younger in the sport, or they don't really pay attention, right? They're sandhagans and don't know what's going on around them. They will say, hey, wait a minute. I was told I get a title fight. Where's my title fight? So just to clear up what that expression is to mean is that you will be offered it. Du Plessis was offered it. He turned it down. He is now not the guy, which is what opens the door for Kamaru Usman and Chimaev to fight for number one contendership. And I have to assume that vernacular was also applied here. I must assume that Chimaev was, in fact, as the victor, offered the Sean Strickland fight. And perhaps it's just the date that threw him off. Perhaps January just doesn't work. Perhaps he has a broken hand and just can't be healed, go through a camp to do the match then. Perhaps there's something to the other rumors that were told that Chimaev cannot get around, that he is locked to certain parts of the world, of which the only one we service is Abu Dhabi, and that he must fight there. Perhaps. One thing with Chimaev is we just don't get that kind of information. He just does not see it as a concern in his life if false things are put out about him. He's extremely unique. Most of these guys get sensitive. They're little babies about it. That isn't true. Even if it doesn't matter, even if it doesn't affect anything, even if that headline is the only way they're going to get a headline, they will still come out on their social media and let you know, that is not true. How dare he say that about me? Chimaev appears to not give a damn, which I personally just think makes him even more interesting, in all fairness. But Du Plessis versus Strickland is an awesome fight. I mean, that one will really make you stop and think. Du Plessis did show one thing in the Whitaker fight above everything else. He showed us he's better than we thought he was. He showed us that his grappling, while maybe a little bit ugly, I mean, he threw him in a headlock. Okay? He took Whitaker down in a headlock. Yoel Romero could not take Whitaker down in 10 rounds to triumph. Du Plessis took him down with a headlock. Like, even if it's ugly, he has an ability to make it work. And that match, I'll be very curious. I went to DraftKings. At the time that Dana made this announcement, and now I went to DraftKings to see who the favorite was. They don't have it posted yet. So I think the whole world got caught off guard by this. But I will keep checking, and I will be curious. Because that really is a bit of an unexpected match. And how did we get here? And how once Chimaev wasn't able to do the match, did all of the other middleweights not offer to do it? When the rumors came out of the broken hand, by example, when the rumors came out of the travel restrictions, just by example, there is not a middleweight out there who offered to fight Strickland. And we have a lot of guys in this industry that don't understand what it takes. We have a lot of guys that will look at Du Plessis and not understand that less than 1 year ago, 11 months to be exact, 11 months and 9 days to be even more exact, he was going to be an undercard of a pay-per-view. In that time period, he's been feature matches of pay-per-view, been #1 contender, and named as a headlining world title pay-per-view attraction. Du Plessis did something here that should be observed. But he's refound himself in an opportunity that we didn't know was even available, largely because of all the other middleweights who continually fumble the ball. We have no division like middleweight. We have all sorts of guys that don't know what it takes over here to get certain things done. They just don't know. They don't have good management. They don't have good strategies. They don't have anything. But we don't have more of those guys in any division as we do in the top 10 at middleweight right now. And what Du Plessis did to get this opportunity should be observed, and then it should be copied. But it will be neither. The middleweight said, hear my words right now, don't even know what it means, and don't know how to do with their own careers what Du Plessis, in an extremely short period of time of 11 months and 9 days, has done with his.